I'm not
Yeah.
saying that what you're looking at that we'd ordinarily call a tree. I'm not saying it's not there, but in the absence of the label, what is it? And the mind goes like what is it? And then all the other labels that get added to all other things in our life, including me. Me, the big labels about me. I'm a good person, I'm not a good person, I'm this, I'm that. All labels. Because if you can imagine in the collapse, if the mind just completely, absolutely stopped, all thoughts stopped. Now, what's out there? There'd be seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and smelling going on. There'd be consciousness and awareness. Yeah. Would there be things out there? So that everything stops. Yeah. Or I sometimes say, it's no thing. But I wouldn't call it, as some people do, I wouldn't call it nothing. But no thing. Because it's only the mind that creates a thing. Oh, that's a tree, that's a building, that's a table, that's a this and that.
The mind has access to the senses and narrates what it sees, hears, tastes, touch, feels.
Right there, I've got to pause you right there. Yeah, the mind can't see, hear, taste, touch, or smell.
But doesn't it use the senses to narrate what happens?
Yeah, but it's creating what's happening and then narrates about it as well.
Right.
Like if I ask you to just scan your vision around the room, what does the seeing say about anything?
Nothing.
Nothing. And then what does the mind do with it? Oh, I see a bookshelf, I see a table, I see the carpet, I see a guitar, I see a lamp. It does that. But the seeing says nothing. Nothing. You're conscious of the mind, right? Thoughts. Yeah, flip that. Are thoughts conscious of this that's conscious of thoughts?
No.
Okay, then what the hell is this? What's it going on about? Because to have an experience, you've got to be conscious. Now, if there's only one seat of consciousness, if there was two seats of consciousness, in other words, you had conscious of thoughts and thoughts were conscious of this that's conscious of it, you'd be schizophrenic. Do you understand?
Yeah, I always thought that the mind was a narrator of what the senses.
Yes, it is a narrator, but it narrates what it creates. It narrates about what it creates. And it's, like I've said it a few times tonight, if all thoughts stopped, just completely collapsed, not a single solitary thought happening at all for 30 minutes, now what's out there? Without a thought, what's out there? Yeah. So it just makes up a big story. Yeah.
Yeah, I just am wondering how it does it. I suppose it's unknown.
The only place duality exists in the whole universe is in mind. That's how it does it. Thoughts are dualistic. That's it. All thoughts are dualistic. All. And in the absence of thoughts, what happens to duality? It's gone. So I'm trying to get you, out of the mind, away from the thoughts, to come back to just here, right now. And leave the narration alone. Yeah. But often it's difficult to do that until all our damn questions are answered. They've got to be answered. Somehow they've got to be answered. It's like I was saying before about duality trying to discover non-dual. It's not possible, because if duality could discover non-dual, there'd still be two, the non-dual and the duality. You can't discover it. Yeah. When the duality drops and what is revealed is non-dual, then moving forward from there, the non-dual and the duality can work hand in hand, no problem together. Why? Because it's just a sixth sense. Like seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, and thinking. Yeah. So there can be verbalized thought and or thoughts. Yeah. You can say nothing, thoughts. Like, it's really easy to say apple in your mind, and you can hear yourself saying apple. Can you do that now? Can you hear it? Yeah. What ears are you using to hear that? You can hear it, right? Good. Now what I want you to do is I want you to visualize a Granny Smith green apple in your mind. You got it? What sight are you using to see that apple? Because hearing is here, isn't it? And seeing is here. What are we seeing that green apple with?
Thought.
Yep. It's incredible. That's what I'm saying. It's a magnificent creator, what it can create. The sixth sense is magnificent. You know, my teacher, Sailor Bob Adamson, would say, you know, the mind, it makes a dreadful master, but a wonderful servant. Dreadful master. Would I have a friend, a close friend, that spoke to me the same way this can speak to you? Would you have a friend like that? Hang around with a friend like that? It's a good indication, isn't it, as to what can go on in here. Yeah. And yet we befriend it. We rely on it. We say, I can't do without it. It's like being in an abusive relationship, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to tell you to get out of the abusive relationship, and you just want to stay in the relationship. What can I do? You know? It's incredible what it creates. That's what I was saying earlier. It creates everything. Seemingly things it creates. If all of your thoughts, I haven't said this for a long time, but if all of your thoughts, all of them, all of a sudden turned into Chinese, the language, Chinese, there was zero thoughts in English anymore. It was all in Chinese, and you don't know the Chinese language. Yeah? Now what would be going on? Zero understanding of any thought. So when seeing latched onto a tree, mind would be calling that in a language you'd no understanding of. So you now wouldn't know it's a tree. Do you get that? It's important.
Yep.
What happens to the universe? What happens to things? What happens to even your idea of personal self? If the language just changed, all changed to Chinese. There wasn't even a thought, an English thought, oh my God, all my thoughts have changed to Chinese, because that would be in Chinese also. Now try and imagine that. I'm trying to get you to see what this creates. Can you see it?
When you say things, it's the mind. It's coming from the mind.
Yes.
What you say.
Language, yeah.
Is it 100%, or is there some universal
The question
consciousness?
is, okay, so the question there would be, who's the thinker? Would it not? Especially if you've looked for yourself and you've made the conclusion, oh, I'm not the thinker, thoughts just happen. True?
Yeah.
Because we look, can't stop the damn things and just off they go. Yeah. It begs the question, doesn't it? Who's the thinker? And some people will say, well, it just happens. Thinking just happens. And that's true. Thinking does just happen, but there's an intelligence behind thoughts as well. Yeah. Now, if all is one, non-dual, one, then that one is the thinker. The one is the doer. It can't be any other way. Any other way would imply two. Yeah. Yeah.
Very good.
See, what's being seen is not what actually is. That's why I tried to get you to go to Chinese. Now what's being seen? It's all Chinese. What's being seen now? Because we rely on this to tell us what we're seeing, don't we? Yeah. It's magnificent. It's magnificent. It's only problematic when it creates a me. Which also what we touched on earlier about the hijacking of this presence, this awareness, this consciousness when we're a little kid. It happens to everybody. It just gets passed on. When you can fully come to see and understand what this me is, what it is, from that point forward, it's not rocket science to understand that the me is deaf, dumb and blind and it can't see, hear, taste, touch or smell. It's not conscious and it's not aware. That's why I asked you to flip it earlier. Is the mind conscious? Or you conscious? You are conscious of the mind, correct? You're conscious of the mind. Is the mind itself conscious of this that's conscious of it? That needs to be looked at. You can only look for yourself. You discover there's one seat of consciousness. Yeah. The mind is not conscious. And yet it's the mind that says, I've had this experience and I've had that experience and I've done this and I've done that and blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. And the mind can't experience anything. Zero. It makes up stories about stuff it creates. And then believes it. Then it'll create a little me in there as well. There's a me character in there now, apparently. And imagine the mind just stopped for half an hour. You don't fall off the chair dead. I'm not defining what you is. Please be careful of that when I say that, but you still would be. And the experience would be inner silence. Inner silence. All that you'd be aware of is the fact that you are conscious, aware. Seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. So quiet, you could hear a pin drop. And we don't notice that quietness. Why? It's so noisy in here. We don't realize how noisy it actually is in here until it stops. We live with it. We're just so used to the mind being active all the time.
My mind wants to intervene, but now that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to shut up sometimes, you know.
Yeah, I know.
It wants to know pathways and this and that.
I know.
It doesn't have to.
The reality is it can't know. It's not conscious. It can't know. All it will ever do is narrate a story about something that it itself has created. Yeah. If all the labels stopped, yeah, what's happening now? All the labels have stopped. It's profoundly quiet. Still. Peace. Calm. Yeah. The mind is good to unpick what we're not. When you absolutely know what you're not, from that point forward, the mind is useless. You can't take it where you want to go. You can't take that tool. Where you're destined to go, you can't take it with you. You can pick it up again later, no problem. You can't take it with you. Do you understand? Yeah. The me can't see, hear, taste, touch, or smell. So I'm not talking to Mick. It would be a waste of my breath. I'm talking to that can see, hear, taste, touch, smell. That is conscious, that is aware. Yeah. And this is what the me is looking for. Like, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just abide here.